kind of blood and guts, whatever.
Right.
What is the art of storytelling when it comes to a death match?
Well, it kind of depends because there's a good variety. It's kind of like you're talking about, it's a buffet. I always kind of equate it to like a Baskin Robbins, man. There's so many different flavors of ice cream, and it kind of goes the same way with the storytelling and the psychology of deathmatch. It kind of depends how you want to put it. Like it could be a story angle with, it gets really, really hot towards the end, and like there has to be a really violent blow off, and they end it with a big Texas death match, or 100 light tubes or something like that. Just got to that point, or kind of like how you have it a lot more often nowadays is you have guys who, like in Japan, they call them death fighters, who that's like their main style of fighting. Then you kind of have a little bit of different psychology with death fighters because we're so used to that kind of level of pain. You kind of have to up the ante a bit. So with a death fighter fighting another death fighter, you'll take a bundle to the head or whatever, but not be dead from it. You'll be able to get up and sell up and fight on. But like say if you're not a death fighter and you take a big 5-6 bundle to the dome, you probably should be out for a while. You know what I'm saying? So I think it just kind of depends on the story, because the psychology is still the same. I always kind of do the analogy of a cake, because wrestling is the base of your cake. You have the same ingredients, your flours, your sugars, your butter, but the death match is the frosting. So a lot of the time the cake's going to be exactly the same. It just depends on what kind of frosting you want.
That's true. And some people don't like frosting either. So. Exactly.
But it also kind of equates to, you're talking about, people think that everything's all just blood and guts and gore and not wrestling. It's kind of still equates to the same. It equates to the same because you can have, you can sit there and have a ton of frosting and no cake, and you're going to get sick of it really quick.
Well, I'm glad you said that. Kind of goes right into what I was going to ask next. Is that so? When the Dark Side of the Ring came out and the Nick Gage episode came out, there was matches he had that I didn't know about, and like obviously the Nick Gage and their tournament that they have, and I think one of the final matches was all pavers were put on the mat, and that's what the mat was, and I was like, to me, that's too far, because like you're just wrestling on cement, and it's just like
with him and Matt Tremont.
Yes.
Yeah, I love that man.
Okay, so that's the thing. So for me, I think that's maybe too far because of the fact that there's no give when it comes to pavers, but to some people like yourself, you really love that match. Is there too far when it comes to a death match? Yes,
there is too far. But here, let me give you a little bit of insight, which maybe change your mind a bit on the cinder block match. So, just to maybe give you a different perspective. So, like cinder blocks, you know what it's like to fall on concrete, right? Like you've taken a trip on asphalt, you've taken that hard fall to the pavement, and you're like, yeah, this sucks. So, to psychology, like a lot of fans don't know what a ring feels like. A lot of fans don't know what it's like to fall on a bunch of light tubes, but they definitely know what it feels like to get slammed into a wall or slammed into the concrete. So it's as much as I don't like them, it's the same kind of idea with like Legos, People.
I was going to mention that.
Go on ahead.
I was going to say, because like, let's say WWE, when they finally, they weren't even the first ones to do Legos. I think GCW was, but when they have a, quote unquote street fight or whatever, the most hardcore thing they'll do is Legos now. And again, everybody knows what it's like to step on a Lego, and it's not pretty. It's not fun. So that's now their like most hardcore thing that they do. And so it's funny because you don't see that as much when it comes to death matches, because of the fact that obviously there's far more violent things that they're using.
Right. But it kind of breaks down to the fans are what's you're getting the reaction from. So whatever is more susceptible for the fans to react to is what you should do. Is my main signature weapon's a machete.
Right.
Everybody kind of knows what it feels like to get cut by a sharp, knife. If you're cooking and you get cut or something like that, everybody kind of knows what that feeling is. So, people know it from horror films. They're like, yeah, this can really mess somebody up. So it makes that mental aspect of it's a mental understanding about the pain level that I'm putting somebody through, or on the opposite side, the pain level that I'm going through. I really love cinder block matches. I love concrete bumps, because I'm not getting stabbed, which I don't mind getting stabbed. But there's a point where it gets to I've had some pretty bad incidences where I've almost lost organs. So
wow.
Yeah, so I love cinder block spots. I do a diving headbutt Chris Benoit style with cinder blocks, and everybody loses their mind about it. So
interesting.
Yeah.
Huh. That's what we thought was interesting whenever you would see somebody with a folded piece of paper and they would put it on either the webbing in between some of these fingers or the where your mouth closes, the edge of that, and they would just do that, and everybody again loses their mind because we've all had a paper cut at some point, and we all know how nasty it is.
Yeah, my friend Drexel, the devil himself, Drexel, does that spot. He'll get somebody in a low angle headlock and then bring out pieces of paper and slice the sides of their mouth open with a paper cut. And it's gruesome because you know what it feels like. You know that soft tissue is so susceptible to those kind of cuts.
Uh-huh. What I think it's almost worse, which I don't think anybody's done yet. You can use this if you want to. Cardboard cuts are worse than paper cuts.
Cardboard cuts are brutal.
Yeah. So if you want to use that and then pour pickle juice on it, not only does it help them, but it will sting for 10 seconds. But people don't know that, and they just think, oh, you might as well put salt in there or whatever.
I was gonna say I've never done pickle juice, but I've done lemon juice, hot sauce, salt. Yeah.
Oh. Yeah, I had an old Subway owner, and he would somebody would cut their finger, and he's like, put it in pickle juice, and I was like, what? And it does close it up. Whether it's the most sanitary thing or best thing for you to do, it's debatable. But
vinegar's gonna get you.
Yeah. But you stop bleeding, so that's a plus.
Right.
Now, is there a spot that you've done that I want to say messed you up more than others, but not a big spot, like you said, you do the Benoit Dynamite Kid headbutt with the cinder block, but something small that is probably just an everyday move that messed you up, and you're like, damn it, how did that do that? But later in the match, I had this thing hanging out of my head, and I'm perfectly fine.
Well, actually, yeah. So my worst injury wasn't even in a full-on death match. Well, second to worst injury. It's kind of a tie, but I tore my bicep in a match once. Yeah, and it was from I was giving this big lucha kid from Kansas a fall-away slam, and just what happened is about 280, so he's a really, really big dude. And I had him, and it was a weird, I think my shoulders might have just been too tight, so my tendons were just really, tight, and I went to throw him, and my arms fully locked, and my bicep just popped.
Ooh.
And I was like, that's a little thing. I've taken weed whackers, done the cinder blocks, I've taken Kinsons, I've done so much ridiculous, silly shit, but oh man, I'm just tossing this dude, and now, I can't really use my left arm for a month, even though I wrestled with it like that. But I couldn't use it regularly for a while.
Oof.
Yeah, but the other injury is what I was talking about, me possibly losing an organ.
Oh yeah, walk us through that. What was that?
So I was having a death match in Vegas with Drexel, the dude I was talking about earlier, and he's kind of think what do they call him? Kind of has a scary cryptid, spooky but insane gimmick, and so he comes big pentagram bundle, like of light tubes, so it's shaped like a big star. He hits me with it, and it breaks, but it harpoons a bunch. So like, what we mean by harpooning is like the light tubes break and it has like pointy edges. The ref we had was not a deathmatch ref. Like, he's never done a deathmatch before. I knew this because he went out there and we had probably over 200 light tubes and he had no gloves. So I was like, okay, we'll see how this goes. So hit me smooth the bundle. He goes to the pin. I kick out. I roll over. I feel like a lot of blood come out of my back, and it feels like something just poured, like, kind of like, not hot, but like warm, hot coffee on my back. I'm like, oh, that's a lot of blood. Whatever. And go through the match, try another 10 minutes, get even more bloody. Finish the match, go to the back, and one of the girls working on the show was like, hey, so, not to freak you out, but you look like you have a gunshot wound in your back. I was like, what's that about? Can you take a picture of it for me? So takes a picture, shows it to me, and I'm like, oh, that's really bad. So I was like, I can't glue this, otherwise I would, and just, drive home, 17 hours back home.
You're right.
But, so I was like, I'm going to go to the ER. So I go to the ER, sit there, making a very large pool of blood in the ER because they don't understand what's happening. I go back there, and they're like, oh yeah, you're here for the cut in your eyebrow. I was like, no. I was like, oh yeah, you're here for the cut in your hand? I'm like, no. I'm like, I'm here for the puncture wound that I set out on my back, and I lifted my shirt, and they're like, oh shit, okay. We have to go get you, in MRI to see what this is like. So I was sitting there waiting for this MRI, and the doctor comes in to physically check how I'm doing, and he sticks his finger in there, and without letting me know, which is the worst part. I'm like, you could have bought me dinner first. You could have warmed this up a little bit. He said, nope, I'm just going in. So goes in, looks at me, and he's like, so I went past the bottom knuckle towards the middle of the palm, and I was like, I still can't feel a back wall. I'm like, cool. That's awesome.
Oh, no.
So get the MRI done. They're like, so just to let you know, you're good, but you're about an inch away from puncturing your lung.
Ooh.
So I was like, cool. And they're shocked about me because I'm sitting there fine. I'm like, I really just want to get my shit sewn up so I can leave.
Right. You got places to be.
Yeah, and kind of to wrap it up, I got there around midnight. I didn't leave until almost 6 a.m. So.
God damn.
Yeah. But that was a goof up by an unexperienced ref that it almost ended up with me missing a lung, or having a hole in my lung.
Yeah. That's nasty.
It's deathmatch.
Yeah. So the deathmatch, I mean, I think the community is not as big as, the rest of the wrestling community. So do you guys wrestle each other quite a bit, or is it enough to where this place will have you out here and you'll wrestle somebody else, and this place will have you out here and you wrestle somebody else?
I always kind of refer to it as it's pretty tribal. So there's not a lot of us that do the niche regularly. There's definitely some one-off guys, but it's usually a lot of the same places that consistently bring out a lot of the same guys. ICW does, Circle 6 does, RPW does. A lot of the good, consistent deathmatch feds will bring around the same stable of dudes or girls. So.
Yeah. Okay. That's what I was thinking. I wasn't trying to niche you guys in one spot. But.
No, it's just a lot of, a lot of folks, once they get that first one in, they're going to realize if they're down for more, they're like, no, I'm good.
Yeah.
So.
Now, you do wrestle other styles as well, obviously. How do you kind of, when you're putting a match together for a regular match as opposed to a death match, do you still kind of keep the same storytelling aspect, or do you kind of change a little bit because there's not really going to be so much of the weapons and the reaction from the crowd from that? You have to have the reaction from the crowd for the storytelling and the moves and everything.
I keep it the same. The psychology's still the same because, wrestling is wrestling, either if you have
that's true.
flaming tables or you just got your fists. It's just, you kind of just have to think of your